The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra Biscornet, and I believe everyone has a story to tell. What's yours?
I'm Deborah Monk, empowering you to find your creative voice.
And I'm Shelly, Devlin, inspiring you to find your why. All right, ladies. Well, we have an exciting show today.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the artistic muse. How do you invite her into your space, your life, to write, create, and feel? So before we get talking about that, let's talk about what the muse is.
Well, the muse in mythology, there are 9 muses. There were 9 goddesses who symbolize the arts and sciences. As a verb, to muse is to consider something thoughtfully. Mm-hmm. And as a noun, it's a person, especially a woman, who is a source of inspiration.
All right.
So, yeah, and so I think there's a lot of talk about it, and I'm not sure everybody, you think of for me, when I think of the muse, it's, the painter, the male painter who paints the nude woman. She was his muse. So, she's the only one he ever painted. But I think it's so much more than that. It's so personal. It's so intimate for everyone, for each person.
I never knew what it was until you talked about it, Deb.
Yeah.
And now I've heard a million other people use the word.
Yep.
But mine is so much more colorful because you just showed me what that person was for you, with that colorful muse that shows up and creates all your magic.
Well, yeah. Do we want to go to me first?
Sure, because I think you have a great muse.
I do. Well, and the thing is, ever since Sophie was about 16.
Well, you have a great relation. You have a strong relationship.
A
with your
very
muse.
Strong relationship, yes. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's I use the word muse because it sounds like music, and as a dancer, that works for me. But for me, it's divine creativity. It's a higher power. It's almost like a connection to my higher self. And since Sophie's been about 16, when she was a teenager, and I was waiting up at night, your son's old enough, and your son isn't old enough yet.
Right.
But that feeling of I used to wait up until she came home, and then I would usually be, somewhere in the house. And once she came home, she didn't even know I was waiting up for her. Like she didn't like if I would wait up for her. And let's say her deadline was midnight. She'd come driving down the driveway at 11:59, and then I would go creeping up the stairs, and she would get home, and everything was fine.
Who else does that? I'm on time, 8:29.
That's on time.
Okay.
And it was kind of staying up in that feeling of up in the middle of the night and alone. And so that was when I started really tapping into my creativity. And so at that time, so for many years, the way it felt for me has been that there was this muse, this higher power that was almost up somewhere in the clouds. Mm-hmm. And she would sprinkle down inspiration, sprinkle down knowledge and thoughts and creative things. And I felt like my job was to be her faithful servant. And I was very, very faithful. And I adored her. I was grateful to her. And I felt like I had a butterfly net. And my job was, I was on high alert all the time. And I felt like I was running around, with my butterfly net, trying to catch these thoughts, right? Because she would deliver things. If I was up at midnight and I needed a pirate sword for my polymer clay mermaid, the next day I would find a polymer clay sword. It could be I'd be going down to the garage and a box would fall over, or I'd be at Michael's, which I was at every day. And, yesterday I'd been there and I had not seen a little sword, and the next day it appears. Or an ad showed up with Johnny Depp as a pirate the next day. So, I ordered it. So I was very aware that she was feeding me, and I felt like it was my job to be on high alert, paying very acute attention to when it came. And so it was wonderful. That was a great... I felt like her faithful servant, but there was that anxiety of being afraid that she would disappear because I had no way to contact her. It was never two-way conversation. It was always she would just sprinkle down. Well, when I went to Bali a couple of years ago to visit my daughter, now granted, I think I had a 36-hour flight, went through Saudi Arabia. I didn't sleep much. So it could have been, and then with the time change, I was probably a little bit delirious.
You were hallucinating?
I was, yeah. When I walked into my hotel.
That and all the peyote.
Yeah. When my taxi took me to the hotel, and first they do a bomb sweep before they'll open the gates to let me into my hotel. And so I'm like, holy, where am I now? And I'm staying at a Hilton. So I'm not used to the metal detectors going.
You're not used to a bomb sweep?
Not used to a bomb sweep, no. So when I walk into the hotel, the woman takes one look at me and says, I'm sorry, your room's not ready till 3, but I will do my best to get you another room because I just look so haggard. So anyway, but while I was there, I literally met my muse. I suddenly saw her. The only way I can describe her is she's this little character, and it's like a dream where you can't. It's not a human, but she's in a hammock. She has a leg swinging over one side, and she has this twinkle in her eye and this smile that just says, like she's waiting for me to get the inside joke. And the thing is, when I met her, what I realized is she's the intermediary between me and God, and it's almost like she has a hose, and when she will fold the hose when I'm full and I can't take anymore. But now I realize she's there still waiting for me to come back. So that I have much more faith now and comfort in she is there for me. That she is an intermediary between the magic of the universe or inspiration or magic or whatever you want to call it. But the point that I would make is I showed up. And I had faith, and I showed up again, and I had more faith, and I showed up again, and I had more faith. And the more I did that, the more she gave me. So that now I finally really feel like I have a very comfortable, trustworthy, confident relationship with this energy. And it's really magical and it's wonderful. And I've never heard anybody talk like this. So I didn't even know.
Because no one talks like this.
No one talks like this.
Because I didn't even know this exists. Because I had never heard any words like this, anybody talk about a relationship like this or an energy like this. I didn't even know what I was looking for. So I think it took me a lot longer to find it. And I'm sure it would be different for somebody else, for you two, for anybody else.
So does your muse have a name?
Muse.
Just Muse.
Yeah, with a capital M.
With a capital M.
Yeah.
But how does it work? Like, let's talk about how she inspires your writing. Because you've told us a story about not quite knowing how something was going to end.
Yes.
And it's interesting I don't want to say the credit that you give the muse, but in a way, the credit that you give the muse.
Absolutely give them credit, because I will tell you some of the things that I have done are not me. They
as
are
far
not
as
me.
you're in your well-behaved woman, or
in my writing,
in
my art, in everything, in all of my creative things, writing is the core of all of everything that I do. All the art things that I create are journals, and it involves some sort of writing.
Yeah.
And many of the things, 90% of the things that I create, the 90% of that book is me, or probably 98%, meaning it's the work. I put my seat in the chair and I sit down and I work. But then there are things that come to me that I know they're not my voice. I did not say them. I did not think them. I did not create them. They come to me. And it's almost like I can hear them, but it's not like there are many voices in my head, the voice that we all have that say, oh, you should work harder, or you should be, following, creating more social media content, or you should be doing this.
That's Jonathan's voice.
Yeah, that's Jonathan's voice. But there are many voices in your head of saying what you should do, or what you're not enough at, or what you're not good at enough at, or that are critical of you. And it's not that. It's this powerful, she speaks very clearly, very succinctly, very short sentences like, bam, the ending is going to be at the funeral. The ending of Well-Behaved Woman is an example. The ending of Well-Behaved Woman is going to be at a graveyard. And so then I think, oh my God, all right, that's awesome. And so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, these are the two, it's going to be either this person or this person. And then eventually it's revealed to me, no, it isn't even that, it's someone else. So when I'm writing it, I'm blown away.
So for you, it sounds like if you stay open, then you will receive those inspirations and messages.
Yes.
Shell, what's the muse like for you?
So mine is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Well, really?
We can't all just.
I wish that I could be as
character with the hammock
magical as
I
Deb.
just discovered the way that I can better communicate with my wife. Apparently, I need to get a hose and kink it. And when she hasn't had enough, just squirt her with it, and then shut it off and see if she's ready to,
Oh my God.
deepen our relationship.
Or get a hammock.
All means something different. All means something different.
Yes.
I think in my case of the muse, I am the muse. But I just,
Of course
I'm
you are,
sorry.
I know,
I'm
but see, that's
sorry,
beautiful.
but-
You're my muse.
But I'm a plate spinner in my regular life. So I've
Wait,
got.
what does
What do you mean
plate
a
spinner
plate
mean?
spinner?
You know that
People that
juggle?
spin plates.
spin plates?
Yeah.
Like
on the
lots
stick?
of
You know,
plates?
like a juggler?
That's what she does.
Okay.
I'm plate spinning a lot of things.
Hugh thought
Yeah,
she
but
was a
that's just being a
hairdresser.
Got it.
She spins plates.
But that's just being a woman.
Well, true.
Okay, but you're
But
way
how
more
do you
than that.
how do I hone in on making sure that I can be focused on that one plate, which is finishing this book and writing? So mine is deliberate and it's intentional and it's a space. So I have to create the space. So, and the space, all the things in the space actually mean something. So this is where it's going to get a little wishy-washy, Jonathan. You know,
Woo-hoo.
my grandmother's desk that she gave to me when I was a preteen is my desk. That desk overlooks the lake with a floor-to-ceiling window. You know, on the desk is my grandfather's pottery that he made. On the desk is a carved sign with my logo and my life that just says, "Enjoy the journey." You know, on the desk is a picture of my other grandmother with her pearls, like strung across the picture frame. So I'm creating every little tiny thing to create the space so that when I sit in that chair, it's almost like this is where the universe comes in. I feel like all those people that are out now on the other side are somehow creating this energy force to make me get this writing done. So it's creating that space.
Well, and you're a very visual
I was-
person.
yes.
So I think for you, space and what your space looks like,
What
to
she
have that
sees.
creative energy
I have the
is
answer.
important.
I know how you're going to get it so that plate doesn't stop spinning. You're going to be able to get the plate going.
How is it?
Give up your job as an interior decorator in your writing space and then just write.
But it works.
Right.
But it works. And nothing works 100% of the time. I mean, behind me is all of my books and the front covers that I've done when I've done photo shoots and done hair for the photo shoots. So I feel like I have some confirmation that there is success.
Yep.
And then I have all of that, sentimental things that are involved. Now listen, it doesn't work 100% of the time because I put the elliptical in the same room overlooking the lake, and
Well, that was a
thing's
problem.
collecting dust.
That's a different plate.
That's a different muse. That
Yeah.
muse is like, I don't feel like
Muse
working
is
out
like,
today.
That
that
you'll
plate
be
fell down
fine."
and broke a long time ago.
And if that doesn't work, then I have to turn it into a writing retreat. And then we have the cabin in the middle of nowhere with, no running water,
Yep.
a little bit of electricity that I take myself on a writing retreat. And then I make her shut the rest of the world off.
Yeah. And that's a good point, that sometimes you need these little recharges of your muse. And so how can we do that? A writing retreat in, where were you? North
Carolina.
North Carolina, where you do shut off everything else and your only job there is to write.
And I got 7 chapters done. And I got a killer chapter
Right.
done
Right.
that weekend.
Right.
So there was work that got accomplished.
And on maybe a smaller level, but a more consistent, is being part of a writer's group.
Yes.
Where for an hour or a couple hours every other week or whatever your group happens to do is time to kind of channel that energy and focus that energy. Because you're right, like none of that's going to work all the time. So you have to build something else in. For me, I'm kind of with Jonathan. I could spend 2 hours renovating a space, and
You could squirt my wife with a hose?
No, I mean, there's a couple places that I write, but it doesn't really matter
right.
so much.
You said
to
you
me.
can write in the
Like,
kitchen. or on the,
light a candle, or no, you just swipe
I
aside the
maybe-
Legos and start writing.
I need to have, I don't know why, but when I'm on I'd like to have like a snack or a drink or something like that. But
Well,
other
wine
than
is a
that-
must.
Wine's good, yes. Whatever. A little snack in a bowl. I usually end up eating that first. Then I go get more, so that just kind of like procrastinates the whole thing. But no, I don't light
muse
a
is
candle.
hungry.
I don't put a music on. I just have my laptop, and I do try though to just be open to whatever's gonna come and not be like, because it's very easy to be, I have to write this section. I have to write this section.
Right.
And maybe that time you're not going to write this section, but you might write this other section,
Yep.
or you might edit something. So I have to kind of be open to whatever's going to come through and just say to myself, the right words are going to come. Like the right words are going to come out. For me, it has to be more of a habit, or else if I don't do it weekly or every couple of days, it's very easy for me to kind of fall
Back
off
burner.
of that. Yeah, put it on the back burner and then not get to it. And then the longer I go not getting to it, then I don't want to get to it because then I have to figure out where the heck I even was.
Right.
And it's a whole thing. But the more it can be just part of my week or my day or whatever I happen to decide is a routine or a habit, then the easier it is.
And I think what's just coming to me now is how important recognizing and understanding and knowing yourself is. Like you are, like Mandra said, you're a very visual person, so it would make sense that visually you would be attracted and drawn and inspired by a space. You know, it makes sense for me that it would be kind of this whatever.
It's emotional.
It's emotional.
Connection. It's a very
connection,
emotional,
right.
almost to a different
level, like a
being.
spiritual.
Yes.
And that would make sense. That's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff I like.
Right.
And for you, habit.
Mhm.
And how
scheduled.
yes,
Mhm.
and how it would be easy. I mean, I think. I mean, you know, of course, sitting here, I like my Muse best
Imagine that. Oh.
because it suits me.
It
But
totally suits
and
you.
it works for me. But I can see how important habit is, and how you know, mine sounds so pretty, and habit sounds so not pretty. But that doesn't make it any less valuable or any less effective.
Right.
There's a fourth member of the panel, by the way, who has another technique.
We would,
Wow.
yes.
We'd
We'd love to
this.
hear it.
What I do is I write checks that my ass can't cash. I'm a dot connector. So I have where I'm going that I can't possibly get to. I have where I am, which is whatever the starting point is of the story, and I start connecting dots, and I work it all out in editing after. But those dots must be connected because I'm very task-based. So if I know I have this goal, this end point, I know I have to achieve that, and then I
But
just start
how
writing.
do you get the inspiration?
The words
to
come
do that?
because once I'm
But
very goal-based. So once I set that goal, there's no way I'm not hitting it. So I just start going and plowing ahead, and it all, again, it comes out in editing. But I write the first draft. It's rough. I write the next one, and then I'm trying to get clever in the different paragraphs. And next thing you know, the story's on the page, and it's done.
If we were, because I mean, we do like to joke, John, you know, on our show here, how Jonathan and I seem to bicker quite a bit. Or anyway, you are, at the end of the day, you are a very creative, very, there's a lot of woo-woo to you as well. What would, right, which I know the world
Usually
doesn't
starts
see
with
as
the
much.
shoes. Starts with the shoes.
Exactly.
I don't know what a woo-woo is, but
well,
we'll go forward from here.
You know what
it's
I mean.
a shot, but it's also,
Where would you get, where do you say, what does it feel like to you? Not how do you get there, not how do you accomplish your goals, but because there are things
maybe
that
what's
you're very
even the
passionate about.
inspiration for the goal,
The
like
original
that
goal.
origination of.
There's certain things that, I don't know, I'm very opinionated, and there's just certain things. I'll give you a rough example. I have 3 cousins that do not get along, or did not get along. And unfortunately, we lost my grandmother, and I got asked to do the eulogy. So I'm writing the eulogy, and of course I want to honor my grandmother, but at the same time, I want to use her passing and her beliefs about family to send a message to my 3 cousins that are not getting along. And that became the goal. I wrote that check and said, okay, I'm going to use this eulogy to deliver this end result, or do my best. And then I started writing it. So the first half was about my grandmother, and the second half was about all of her beliefs on family and how you don't turn your back on people, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of it, it was some of my best writing I've ever done because I set that intention and that goal of doing something that I had no business doing, but just threw that Hail Mary pass, and
Hope for the best.
wrote a check my ass couldn't cash.
And you have to, where did we go for the little gathering afterwards?
Right.
Those 3 cousins were together that hadn't
Hugging.
been together in years, sitting side by side, telling the stories of when they were young.
Yep.
If for me, that by having faith in in this little being, this muse, it gives me freedom from the doubt in myself. You actually are very creative. Where does that energy come from that says I can wear, like you wear crazy red shoes? Where does the confidence, the energy come that says I can do this even though it's not very manly or very accepted or whatever word you want to use? Like you wear pink. I love that you wear pink. You wear pink suits. You wear.
I can describe my entire personality in 2 words. Attention
Jackass.
whore.
Oh, God. I can't believe you using those words on this show. Can you
You
edit-
just called me a jackass.
That was
No,
a
I'm
joke.
not editing it
That
out.
was a joke.
I'm not editing it out. It
All right.
stays.
Let's tie this up.
Yes.
Wrap this up.
I don't know how, really.
Before we end up
Other
with marriage
than-
counseling again.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the muse, whatever your muse is, somehow suits your personality. And
Yes.
it's going to be individual, but at the same time, knowing that is going to be helpful in whatever your creative process
And
is.
finding a way to court her.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
or him.
Or him.
Yes.
So thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the Writer's Block NH Facebook and the Writer's Block podcast on your favorite podcast catcher. If you'd like to hear this episode again, good Lord, or share it with a friend, you can head on over to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. That's UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. Thank you for listening, and we hope to inspire and empower you to tell your own story.
All muses welcome.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.